Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. We're returning to a brewery that has featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, and I think it is most definitely fair to say that this brewery are best known for their different kinds of fruity, juicy, modern, whatever you want to call them, sour beers. Berliner Weisses, Goses, although I guess we can call these beers kind of smoothie sours or Nordic sours these days. But regardless of what we're going to call them, I think you guys get the idea. Now, the one that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases through Systembolaget, and it is a little bit different compared to the ones that we've had in the past, actually. So I'm very curious to see what it's going to have in store for us. But I always enjoy reviewing the new beers from them. It's always a review that I look forward to every month. So curious to see what this is going to have in store for us, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head a little bit south of me here in Lund to Arlöv, which is kind of in between Lund and Malmö, where the brewery finds its origins. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Elmeleven. So this particular beer is called Flat Earth. It comes in at 7% ABV. They're describing it as a triple fruity Gose, and it has blackcurrants, blackberries, mandarin and vanilla added into the brew. So yeah, this should be quite interesting. I've not had one from Elmeleven before with mandarin in it, and they're also labelling this one as a Gose, and I think we've only maybe had one or two from them in the past that have been specifically labelled as Goses. Usually a little bit of salt added into these, of course, but yeah, usually they're just kind of triple fruited sours or fruit sour beers or smoothie sours. So yeah, this should be quite nice. But this beer was released as part of the Lokal Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden. It was available through Glassbanken a little bit before that, but I think this one was released in July of 2022, if I'm not mistaken, but do correct me on that in the comment section below if I happen to have it wrong. But let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, link to my other reviews that I've done from Elmeleven, and we will definitely add more to that in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give the channel is hugely appreciated, and you can also check out the playlist of beer from different countries, and you'll find this one, of course, in the Swedish list. But anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Elmeleven. So, Elmeleven, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Arlöv, but they were founded in Malmö in 2016 by Anders Kvist. So Anders says that he views his brewing of beer as his kind of artistic expression. He's a very distinctive guy, like really long red hair, very colourful tattoos, and he's really nice. He's just a very nice kind of bubbly guy. So go and chat with him and you'll learn a lot about brewing beer, because he's very clever that way, I have to say. But his interest in beer apparently started when his friend bought him what he called a non-industrial lager beer, and he was just blown away, you know, this was what beer could be. But soon after this, his girlfriend bought him a cheap beer kit where you simply add water. But he felt that you must be able to do this in so much of a better way, and it was this that pushed him into homebrewing. So he took part in various competitions. He was also involved in the -1 brewing collective, which you'll find in the basement of the Bishop's Arms at Gustav Adolfs Torg in Malmö, where I do a few shifts, of course. Come and say hello. And it was there that he actually sold his first commercial beers. But production was very small over the first couple of years, only a few thousand litres. But a while after this, he started brewing in the Nerd, Chad and Lilla Ulfabriken brewery in Rosengård, and he had several Systembolaget releases which began in 2020. They were brewing some IPAs at one point, but then they started to focus on the sours, and Anders says that he does want to try new things with the Elmeleven brand in the future. But in March of 2021, they announced a new collective called Molecule. I forget if they used the English or the Swedish word for that, if you like, but it's Molecule anyway, and this includes Elmeleven, Nerd and Chad beer, and they've got their new brewery in Arlöv, which starts off with a 1500 litre brew kit, and it is Anders that is doing all the brewing. So the Nerd brewing beers, the Chad beer ones that you're getting, these are all actually brewed by Anders. But the name Elmeleven that he uses comes from where he lived, which was Almbacksgatan 11. Elm, of course, translates into English as elm, and this is just something that stuck with him from his days as a home brewer. But as of September 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 70 different kinds of beer, and like I said, it is mainly big, fruity, juicy sour beers that these guys are doing. So yeah, definitely one that you want to check out if these kind of beers are your cup of tea. When it comes to the Molecule Brewing Collective, I believe they call it, or Molecule Brewery, I'm not sure of the exact name of the kind of umbrella company. Nerd Brewing are the ones that will release all the stouts and barley wines and things like this. The big fruity juicy sours are released under the Elmeleven brand, and the IPAs are released under the Chad beer brand. So yeah, these are three different beer brands that are brewed by the one brewery that you should check out. Actually, you'll see Nerd Brewing returning to the channel at some point fairly soon as well. But yeah, that is all I can tell you about Elmeleven. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and all this kind of thing, and you can of course check out some of my other reviews that I've done from them. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a look at the beer itself. So as you can see, once again, beautiful artwork on the cans, and it is Anders himself that designs these. But there you can see the little kind of rocket spaceshipy thing. This is the Elmeleven symbol. There you can see flat earth, triple fruited Gose, black currants, blueberries, mandarin and vanilla. So this should be very nice. As I mentioned earlier, it's a 7%er, and it was released as part of the Local Smokeskolig assortment, I believe, in July 2022. But without further ado, let's crack this guy open and see what we have in store. Really looking forward to this. Yeah. So, oh, you can smell that already. These Elmeleven beers, I always look forward to these beers every month. Love them, absolutely love them. And I'm curious to see what the Mandarin is going to do in this one, of course. But yeah, this should hopefully be up there with the expectations I have for Elmeleven. So yeah, kind of poured as you would expect. So before the head disappears, you can see that this beer poured with about a 3/4 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of yeah, pinkish tinted head there. That is fading away to just be a very kind of thin foamy layer though. But the beer looks absolutely great. In terms of colour, I would describe this one as being, oh, a very kind of deep burgundy, a sort of Heart of Midlothian football shirt burgundy, I guess we could say, or maroon is maybe another good way to describe it. There are a few bubbles going up toward the bottom of the head there. You can see them just kind of coming up on the surface. One or two bigger ones sticking toward the side of the glass. But the beer, I have to say, it does look absolutely lovely. So remember, when it comes to the colour of your beer, the colour depends on the type of malt that you use, the length of your wort boil, but in the case of a lot of these kind of modern fruity sour beers, it's all to do with what adjuncts you actually put in it. So when this one's got black currants and blueberries in it, they of course are going to dominate the colour, and that's pretty obvious for you to see with this lovely kind of maroon colour that it has. The beer itself does have a good degree of haze to it, and this will be due to the oat and the wheat content in this one. Does this beer contain lactose at all? No, this is just barley, wheat malt and oats. Although it doesn't, it's interesting with this, it doesn't say, when it just says contains, it doesn't say that it contains salt or anything, which is a key component when it comes to Gose. Gose, of course, comes from Germany, and what they used to do was put these beers in bottles and then let them open ferment. That was how they became sour, but they did put a little bit of salt in these things. I forget the name of the town. Was it Lichtenheim that they came from? But yeah, anyway, that's the thing that kind of distinguishes a Gose from other beer styles. But yeah, I think this one looks very, very nice. Nothing really surprising about the appearance of this one compared to the other ones that we've had from Elmeleven in the past, nor when you consider the style of beer that this one is. But yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. I got a little whiff of it when I opened the can, and I went to take a sniff of it there, so I think that's all we need to see about the appearance. Let's take a proper look at the aroma then and see what we get out of this one. Looking forward to this for sure. Oh yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, I mean, damn. It's been a while since I've had one of these Elmeleven beers. I have had similar things in the pub from Brazil, actually, that have been very, very good, but not quite smoothie sours in the same way. But these Elmeleven beers, they're so, a lot of these kind of modern fruity juicy sour beers, they're so straightforward, but they just smell absolutely lovely. The aroma coming out of these beers is just awesome. Really, really good. Yeah, absolutely love it. I'm going to say big thumbs up to Elmeleven once again. I was really looking forward to this one. So yeah, in terms of the first impression, it's got a lot of kind of yogurty character to it. big, smooth and creamy, lots of juicy kind of berryish leaning fruits. This one, I don't get so much of the Mandarin right away, but I'm sure we'll get a little bit of that in the flavour. And there is, of course, a lot of the vanilla coming out. So let's just break that down for you a wee bit more and describe it a bit more in depth. So when you sugar the beer up a little bit, you can smell a little touch of white bread in there, but the backbone of this beer, it really reminds me of Petit Filou yogurts. My mum used to get me these little ones for my lunchbox when I was a wee boy called Munch Bunch, and the aroma that you get out of this one is just it's just really, really nice actually. Yeah, it has this, you know, it just has that big yogurty, creamy sort of backbone to it. You get the vanilla, and as I say, you can smell some of the oaty creaminess coming out of this one. And you can smell just a little bit of the kind of white bready notes from the wheat. There's a little touch of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing going on, but yeah, it really is more yogurty and vanilla-like in its aroma profile, I have to say. Yeah, this one for me gets a big thumbs up on the malty side of things. When it comes to sort of green component, as I always say, you do get a little touch of a green component out of these beers, but it's very rare that Elmeleven will actually put hops in these things. I think they've maybe only done it once or twice or whatever, if ever, because I know that Anders likes to focus on the fruits and things like that, and it's big, you know, it's fruit puree and stuff that they put in these because it's good chemistry, you know, big surface area, etc, etc. But with the fruity side of this one, you can smell just a little touch of a kind of green brambly component in there, so there's a wee bit of grass and a wee bit of that woody brambly sort of thing coming out. But yeah, the other part of the aroma is all about the fruits. You can smell the slightly sharper blueberries coming out of this one, and the kind of juicier blackberries in the background, and both of those are giving the beer just a little bit of tartness. Of course, you've got a few other things going on in there. You've got a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry, you know, a little bit of that kind of Haribo, you know, the little hearts from Haribo. You've got a wee bit of that in there, the straws as well. You do have some of that kind of going on. Definitely a candied strawberry, but yeah, blueberries, blackcurrants, blackberries. I forget, is it blueberries or blackcurrants that are in this one? We'll need to check. But yeah, I don't get so much in the way of the Mandarin. I don't get all that coming out of this beer, but I'm sure it will come out in the flavour. You can smell a little touch of an oily orange, but the berries really do take the lead on the fruity side of things. And as I say, you've got that kind of oily, candied strawberry thing underneath. But yeah, from the aroma perspective, this beer is absolutely beautiful. It's very, very straightforward, I think, in terms of its aroma, but it really, really does the trick. You do get a little you do get a little touch of the salt out of this one, but not overly much. It doesn't say on this one anything about salt being added into it, but yeah, that is quite interesting. But yeah, it's black currants in this one, and blackberries. I've been saying blueberries, but it really does have that kind of juicy but tart blueberry kind of note to it as well. So yeah, I think you can definitely say that there's a bit of blueberry in this one, but yeah, it's black currants, blackberries and Mandarin and vanilla that's in this one. So yeah, I do apologise, I've been misleading you for part of this video. Black currants and blackberries. So yeah, beautiful smelling beer, this one. Take a bit of time to just enjoy that before you get stuck in. That's always half the experience with craft beer. But let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go. This is the Flat Earth, a 7% triple fruited Gose with black currants, blackberries, Mandarin and a bit of vanilla added into it. It smells like another beautiful beer from Elmeleven. Let's just do this. Slange, skål and cheers. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's awesome once again. The first thing, it's been a while since I've had one of these beers. Or in fact, a while since I've had one of the Elmeleven ones. Has quite a bit of an impact to it. You really get a nice little bit of a kind of sharper, puckering thing coming out of this. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, once again, it's a lovely, lovely beer. In terms of, you know, as it was with the aroma profile, the flavour profile is really quite, it is really straightforward in this one, but it just goes about its business very, very nicely, and it's certainly up there with the standards that we would expect of Elmeleven. Yeah, and these beers, they never get old either. Yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying this a little bit because it's been, I can't remember, I think it must have been back in about February. It must have been about 6 months since I last had an Elmeleven beer, so I'm just wanting to savour this a little bit, but again, this one gets a thumbs up from me. What I will say about it is, it doesn't, the first impression is that it doesn't strike me as being one of the more complex ones that I've had from Elmeleven, because I guess, you know, the Blackcurrants and the Blackberries are kind of similar, I guess, in their flavour profiles. They're not madly distinctive in a sense. But the Mandarin, I think, really starts to come out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. I think it really, the currants and the berries kind of dominate in this one. But the fruity side of this beer is just very, very nice. I mean, for me, the main difference you'll find between a berry and a currant is that a currant is slightly more oily and juicy in its flavour, whereas the berries tend to be the ones that are very, very tart. So I think a lot of the tartness you're getting in this one comes from the blackberries, but then you've got the currants underneath there that are kind of smoothing it out a little bit. And as I say, the Mandarin starts to push its way out into the aftertaste. But yeah, it is nice. You do get a little bit of the saltiness as well. So I would be really curious to know whether they did actually add salt into this one, or whether they whether they just used like a Gose yeast or something like that. I'd be curious. I need to ask Anders about that and see what he says. But yeah, solid beer once again. Let's break it down and just describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, middle of the palate then. Middle third of your palate. So you can feel there is a little tiny touch of a kind of like light bread crusty note in there. There's a wee bit of white bread, but on top of that you can feel the kind of smooth silky wheat just smoothing everything out. You've got the creamy oats sitting on top of that, and then the oats, the way that everything goes together in this one, the oats really give you that kind of petit filou yogurt type character, and again, I really love that about this beer for sure. And for me, it's interesting. I think I actually mentioned this to Anders when I spoke to him. The fact that we one of the things is, I used to find these beers very, very thick when I first tried them, but these days I actually find them quite, I don't find them anywhere near as thick as I used to, and I think this is something that happens. I spoke about this with Hefeweizens before. These big kind of creamy, wheaty, oaty beers, they feel a lot less thick than they used to back in the day, but I think we are just kind of, at least I am, just getting used to that level of thickness, so it's quite hard for me to find something, really thick and creamy these days. But this one does have a little bit of that. It's got a real silkiness to it. I think it's gone from being really thick and creamy, as we've gotten used to these beers, to just being kind of more silky, and I like that about this beer. But as I say, on top of that, with that kind of oaty layer toward the front of that middle third of your palate, that's where you're getting the nice kind of sweeter vanilla notes coming out of it, and you start to get some of the kind of saltiness in there as well, but there's also some saltiness at the back of the palate. So yeah, there is a wee bit of saltiness at the back of the palate with this one, which is quite interesting too. What you will notice as well is that in the middle of your palate with this beer, there's a little bit of a circle there, and that's where you get this kind of Werther's Original butter candy type note coming out of the beer. It really does develop a little bit of sweetness the further into the aftertaste that you go. And yeah, but I think it's more the vanilla, the yogurty, that kind of vanilla yogurty petit filou sort of thing that comes out of this one. But the middle third of your palate in this is really nicely balanced. Again, it's very straightforward, and I just like how that goes together. If you move toward the back third of your palate, then you can feel there is a wee touch of a more kind of grainy character to the bread crust that's underneath, and you do get this more airy, white bready character from the wheat, and you can detect a little bit of yeasty character in there. It's more like a slightly farmhousey kind of bready sort of thing, but I will point out that those flavours are very, very minimal. But on the back third of the palate, the flavour is definitely a little bit taller, but then it condenses down as you go further forward into the middle third of your palate, and I really like, I do really like how that goes together. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me on the malty side of things. So when it comes to the hoppy side of the beer, or the green component, I guess we could say, back corners of the palate, I think there's a little touch of earthiness there, but as you come along the sides of the palate, it's very, very smooth, maybe very, very slightly herbal, and round the front curve of the palate, you do get a little hint of grassiness. A bit of a placebo effect though, because as I say, Anders does not add hops into these sour beers, but I do find you get a little bit of this woody, brambly, grassy sort of thing coming out of this one, which I do quite like. Yeah, so on the fruity side of things then, for me, the fruity side of this beer, if we focus on that front third of the palate, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you can feel a little bit of bready build up there, you get some of the vanilla in there, but the base of the front third of the palate is definitely a smooth, kind of white bread and oaty affair. On top of that, you can feel these juicy fruity notes, and whenever you add fruit into beer, remember, if there are hops in there, the fruit will suppress the kind of green component and the bitter side of the beer. This one's really quite interesting. I mean, for me, at the back of that front third of your palate, you can feel that there, you can definitely feel that there is a little bit of, you know, you can feel that there's a little bit of the kind of blackcurrant sitting in there. And then as you move further forward, you start to get the more oily Mandarin notes. And I'm surprised because the Mandarin isn't that pungent or zesty in its character. It's actually more oily and very smooth, which I didn't expect. But you'll find that the kind of blackberry notes are around the edge of the tongue, and that's where you get the real kind of tartness coming out of this beer. And of course, you have got little undertones of, you know, like a slightly, there's a little bit of a kind of oily fig, kind of candied strawberry type vibe to the beer as well that is in there. But that, of course, is a kind of placebo effect. We know, of course, that our fruits are blackberry, blackcurrant, and mandarin. So yeah, back of that front third of the palate, that's where you're getting the blackcurrant. The mandarin comes out a little bit further forward. Those are forming the base, and the blackberries kind of sit on top of that and give you the tartness, I think. But yeah, as I say, this is a really, really well done beer. I enjoy these kind of fruity, juicy, sour beers. They're quite simple in terms of their flavour profile, but if done well, as they are by the likes of Elmeleven, they can be very, very nice to drink. For me, this isn't one of the more complex ones that I've had from Elmeleven, which is a bit interesting, but it's still up there with the standard that you would expect of the beers that Anders is producing. So yeah, do make sure that you check them out if you get the chance. But I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour profile of this one. Let's have a wee look at the mouthfeel just before we round off. Yeah, mouthfeel wise, for me, this beer, it's pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. It does have a bit of creaminess to it, but like I say, I think over the time that I've kind of gotten used to these big, thick, fruity, juicy, Nordic, modern, whatever we're calling them, sour beers, I think I don't find them as thick as I used to. So for me, I would describe this one as being more kind of silky, if you like. In terms of IBUs and bitterness, I think technically speaking, this beer has 0 IBUs, but there is a little touch of that there. So we'll say maybe 5 IBUs, something like that. You will get a few on the edge of the tongue. It's just how it goes. The malt base, like we said, is very, very smooth. There's a degree of sweetness in there from a bit of a butter candy and a little bit of a kind of, and a lot of vanilla, should we say. You get a little bit of the saltiness too, but again, smooth, quite silky. Smooth and very silky malt base in this one. So yeah, again, I really like how that goes together with this beer. The fruity juiciness is very nice. You've got a bit of oiliness from the mandarin, a bit of that from the black currants as well. Then you've got the tartness from the blackberries. But another very, very well done beer from Elmeleven, and I certainly would recommend that you try some of these beers that they're doing. And I'm looking forward to trying the other one. I forget what fruits are in that, but that was released a month after this one. But yeah, let's leave it there. This one was the Flat Earth, a 7% fruity Gose, blackberries, blackcurrants, mandarin and vanilla from Elmeleven in Arluth, part of the Molecule Brewing Collective, and they're doing some very, very good stuff. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Elmeleven, and you will see these guys return to the channel very soon. And we will be reviewing Nerd Brewing quite soon too, who are also involved in the Molecule Collective. So until the next time, slange it just now, enjoy some nice beers, support your local breweries, and I'll see you guys soon. Slange it, skull, and cheers.